Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our September Military Spouse Circle of Influence Coast Guard webinar discussion powered by Target. Sorry about the music. If you couldn't hear me, thank you again so much for joining us for our September Military Spouse Circle of Influence Coast Guard webinar discussion powered by Target. And happy Wednesday, everybody. Remember, this is, of course, is open to all military spouses, so please tag a friend in the comments below if you're watching live for them to join you. And if you're watching this recorded webinar later, please comment below where you're stationed. And if you're enjoying any fall weather yet, we'd love to hear from you. And I hope everybody is ready for an insightful webinar. Let's go ahead and get started. Everybody. Today we're thrilled to welcome Monica McKenna, a dedicated and accomplished Coast Guard spouse who has a plethora of knowledge to share. So everybody, please give her a warm welcome, a warm Blue Star family welcome to Monica in the comments while I share a little bit about her. Monica is a Coast Guard spouse of more than 30 years, raising 2 boys while navigating countless PCS moves and the demands of military life. She knows firsthand the challenges of balancing family, career, and service, which fuels her passion for fellow military families. In addition to her personal journey, Monica is a financial advisor with First Command, where she uses her experience and training to empower families with tools and strategies for long-term stability, no matter where life takes them. So thank you again, Monica, for being here today, and welcome to our online community. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Aurora, and thank you, Blue Star. I'm so excited to be here today.
So if you wanted to go ahead and introduce yourself, anything I missed out, feel free to. Love to hear from you.
Sure. So you did a great introduction, but just to kind of recap, financial advisor for First Command. My husband's been in the Coast Guard now for 30 plus years. Who knows when we're going to retire? We're having way too much fun. We have 2 little kiddos, 7 and 9. So we're just in those early stages of kiddos, having a blast with them. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me.
Very nice. Yes, gotta love the little kid stage. They're learning lots every day. So let's go ahead and jump into about the Coast Guard life and military experience for you. So what has your journey as a Coast Guard spouse looked like, and how has it shaped your family's life?
Yeah, so when I first met my husband, we were down in Key West. He had already been in for 16 years. So when I was meeting him, or in for 14 years by the time we met, when I met him, I was thinking that was kind of going to be the end of it, just a few more years, maybe one duty station, or maybe we would GO for a couple of years. Didn't think it would really be much of an actual military relationship. But 16 years later, again, 30 plus years later, he is still in, still loving it. He tells me he's going to retire every day. I will believe it when I see it. But the boys have adjusted so well to all the PCSs and are so ready to move to the next house. They're ready to see what the next one's going to hold, what it's going to look like. Might be retirement, might be another duty station, but we shall see.
Well, I'm glad you all are adjusting very well, it sounds like, and yeah, finding the joy in the new adventures you take. Speaking of when you first became a Coast Guard spouse, what was the biggest adjustment that you had to make?
Yeah, I was ready to put down roots in Key West. I loved Key West. I had already been there 3 times. I had moved, come back, moved, come back. I was ready to stay. Never thought I would fall in love with somebody in the Coast Guard that would then drag me out of Key West. but he did. But I knew I had moved around a lot previous to meeting him, so I knew wherever I'd go, I'd always have fun. I would definitely make the best of it. But that was probably the biggest adjustment, is realizing I would be drug out of Key West yet again, and still hopeful that maybe someday we'll go back.
Yes, there's always hope. And you're semi-close now, at least a visit away. So
yes, close drive here in Miami.
Very nice. Okay, and then how did you have any experience with the deployments and the unpredictability of Coast Guard schedules, and how did you navigate that?
Yeah, so in the beginning, before kiddos, he was on some of his longer deployments. And for me, I'm a super easy, go with the flow kind of person. My biggest struggle was probably those first 2 or 3 days when he was gone. I would go into like a little funk, and I just had to make sure that I had activities planned. I needed to make sure that I was out and about, meeting up with people, something for those first 2 or 3 adjustment days. Then I would kind of adjust to my new norm, and I was fine with him being gone. And then when he got home, I had to adjust back to, how do I not think that he's in the way again? So those first 2 or 3 days was always an adjustment back to him being home. Luckily with the kiddos, it's been a little bit easier because he's been on shorter deployments. He's usually only gone for a couple of days here or there. And they're in school. I manage everything. I definitely control the household of taking care of schedules, making sure everyone can get to and from places. It's great when he's in town, but I just make sure that I can manage it when he's not out of town, and it really doesn't disrupt our schedules too much. And then he's super helpful when he is here.
Yeah. Well, it's very nice to hear that you're able to have a plan in place ready. I think that's very important for our spouses to have a plan in place when there are deployments happening. So very nice. And then what are some very unique, only in the Coast Guard moments that you've had?
Yes. This one, Coast Guard. Do you find out in March that you're PCSing or moving in June? I think all other services, you get 6 to 12 months of figuring out where you're going to go, what you're going to do. You have plenty of time to get your kids in activities, figure out, what house you're going to do. Are you going to rent? Are you going to buy? But in the Coast Guard, they like to wait till the very last minute and tell you just a couple of months before and say, okay, Eddie, pick up and move your life. Another big one I found is only in the Coast Guard. Do you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody else? I love the small town feel of the Coast Guard. I love that everyone knows everyone somewhere along the way or another. So love the small town feel. And then I would also say one of the really good only in the Coast Guard things, say you're always on the water. I love the water, love the beaches. I mean, sometimes you're in Buffalo or Michigan breaking ice, but you're still on the water. But most of the time you get really cool places like Hawaii or California, San Diego, some really good fun beach places. Guam, that would be a really cool one to be too.
Yes, no, definitely a good chance you're going to be at a warm waterfront spot. And yes, the whole moving somewhere somebody is so unique because we just PCS with somebody who is at her. So it's really fun experience when you're in the Coast Guard because it is a small, unique branch. So that's been really unique. I agree. And then how have you managed PCS moves? I mean, this is relative to every single branch, right? But how have you managed that?
Well, a couple of things. First, I'll have to say, being a financial advisor, I do have to stress PCS fund. On top of your emergency fund, you definitely need to make sure that you have money put away for PCSing because the military does not cover everything. So usually I'll try to aim for $5,000 for a domestic move or maybe $10,000 for some of those bigger moves or CONUS moves overseas. But having some money on hand to financially help you through those PCS moves, I think is huge. Another thing is we've always lived off of my husband's salary. When I'm working, I'm the fun money girl. I'm the one that we get to go on vacation or we get to save a little bit more, but we always use my income for just fun money. And then when we do PCS and I don't have a job, we still aren't overspending and we never spend outside of our means, always making sure that we can function off of one budget. Another tip on that same line is don't live like the Joneses. Don't live like what people would say like your neighbors. 80% of Americans are in debt and living outside of their means. So when you see the person next to you that's got the new car or the fancy clothes or the nice vacations, they're probably in debt and overspending. So don't fall into that trap. Get a house under BAH, under your housing allowance. Don't buy expensive furniture. it's just going to get ruined in the PCS move. So just realize you're probably going to get to the next move. It's going to be scratched or whatnot, and then you're going to want new. So just go basic with some basic pieces of furniture. Don't go crazy high on furniture. And last on that, I would say really try to put away 20% of your income to the side for your future self, whether it be emergency funds or investments, things like that, and then try to live off of 80%. Sometimes it's just going to be your husband's or your military spouse's salary, but if you can live off of 80 of his salary, I mean, you're in such a better position right there. Couple more things for that, I would also say, just to add, consider a Diddy move. We've done a lot of Diddy moves, being like most of our locations have been on the East Coast, and we've made some pretty good money off of Diddy moves. And then we also know there's no claims to deal with, no broken furniture to deal with. Anything that broke is my fault because I didn't load it right onto the moving truck. And then when we pull up to the next house, I've got all of my stuff there and I'm not waiting on when is this truck going to arrive. So you can't always do Diddy moves, but we have made some pretty good money off of it. It's stressful, don't get me wrong, but we like to work out, and so it's been pretty fun. Last tip I've got is also establish friendships. I think this is probably the most important, is establish friendships immediately, like as quick as possible. If you can do that, you're going to be in such a better position. You're going to need assistance when your spouse is out of town. So establish friendships really quick.
Yes, no, those are all really great tips. Thank you for sharing all those and ways to make the transition smoother. I definitely think getting, when you get settled or find a place, to make sure it's under B, just super important, because every single time we've had our rent go up or our mortgage go up because of taxes. So you definitely want to plan to have it under in case it does go up a little bit. So huge resources and things to keep in mind. All right, and then switching a little bit to how has Coast Guard impacted you and your career path?
Yeah, so when I met my husband down in Key West, I was an ESE teacher at the high school, and then also a college teacher for a math adjunct at Florida Keys Community College, which was really easy. When we PCS to our next duty station, I could easily take my teaching knowledge and transfer it over to teaching for a high school. And then I actually went down to middle school after a while too. The only problem with teaching is I quickly learned in Florida, they do not really like to pay teachers. So the salary, though you work really hard and it's an amazing, rewarding career, you just don't get paid for it. It's like less than minimum wage being a teacher here in Florida. It's really sad. So I would say, well, after like 5 years of doing that, we PCSed up to Virginia, and I actually was in a job interview and said, I don't want to teach anymore. I wasn't liking the way that the curriculum was going. They were forcing more and more on these poor kiddos, and I was just done with teaching. So I was at a stroller strides group. I was really into stroller strides and running, and I did a 5K. And one of the moms, I talked to her husband after the race, and he was like, hey, have you ever considered being a financial advisor? And I was like, actually, I really like math. And I used to manage my friends' money back in college to make sure everyone could pay their rent, make sure they could go out and party, whatever they wanted to do, but I would manage everyone's money. And I was like, oh, that sounds like actually something that would be interesting. So I went into the interview, and I had like just an aha moment at that time in the interview to go, oh my gosh, I found what I was supposed to do in life. I couldn't have been luckier to find a career in a company that understands military life. It's been so rewarding. First Command has definitely been a company willing to find a way to make it work every step of the way as I go through PCSing. So it's been just a real treasure to have found that.
Very nice. Yes. No, it's funny how life works, and you meet somebody and they say, "Oh, have you tried this?" So it's nice to hear that you were able to connect and network to find out your true passion. And speaking of First Command, in this role that you're in, how did you? I know you said you did an interview, but can you walk us through like the process for that and what that looked like in your first like couple months?
Yeah. So. My first couple of months, so I went through an interview process, and then they put you through a series of testing. So I had to go through my Series 7, my Series 66, my life and health. At the time, found out I was pregnant, and was exhausted. First trimester trying to study through all these tests was really, really fun. But luckily First Command definitely, had a training program in place, made sure I had all my study materials. They had study groups. They were constantly checking in on you, but you had to pass these rigorous tests. Once I passed the test, then I went on to a paid training program. They give you about 6 months or so of paid training. And then from there, I went on to be an independent contractor, which has been immensely key for me to be able to balance work life and have my own flexibility. So that's kind of how that went for me signing on with First Command.
Very nice. And these tests that you talked about needing to pass, what did they look like, or a general overview?
Yeah, really hard. Tons of questions. You had to go into a testing facility. I would say, especially the Series 66 was very much like a lawyer language question. They would say, what are like the double language of knots, and just try to confuse you as much as possible. They were anything that could really pop up in the financial world, testing you on all different types of concepts. Most of which I had no idea going into it. I thought I was really good with finances. Again, I really like math. I thought I knew what the stock market was. I thought I knew what I was doing until going through these tests. And I was like, oh, wow, there's a whole nother world out there that I didn't know. And so these tests definitely introduce you and explain and go step by step through what else is out there and knowing all these different nuances of finances.
Very nice. Well, it sounds like the tools that they had in place for you when you first were brought on after the interview process helped out with those challenging tests. So, and for now that you've been, how long have you been with First Command?
About 8 years now.
8 years. Okay, very nice. And what does a typical day in the life look for you work-wise now?
Yes. So typically, again, I'm the one that kind of manages the household. So I'm the one getting the kids up, getting the kids off to school, and then check into the office. So generally I'll have 2 to 3 meetings a day, meeting with clients. I sit down one-on-one and listen to what are their goals? What are they doing? How are they progressing towards those goals? What's the next step in place to get them to that next goal? Did they fall off track? How do we get them back on track to what they want to accomplish? So it's just sitting down and talking with people and then kind of giving them suggestions and checking in often to make sure they're still progressing to those goals. A lot of educating. So it really takes my background of educating and transfers it to now teaching adults. Kids who might not have wanted to learn, and now I get to teach adults what they want to learn all day. So it is pretty inspiring. So I'll, pretty much work, but I always prioritize me time too. So an hour a day, either when I drop the kiddos off or at the end of my day, I'll make sure that I get my time in. So I'll either do a workout or yoga or something. I'll always have some hour in the day that is me time to prioritize that. Then pick the kiddos up by 5, and then we're on mom time. Work is put away. I try not to do any work after I pick up the kids. Don't answer my phone. It is now truly engaged time with the family to do their homework, play sports, whatever we need to do. And then after they go down, it's a couple-minute catch-up time with the husband, try to prioritize our relationship too. And then hit the bed and start it all over again.
Yeah. So it's a routine, but well-oiled machine, it sounds like. Definitely making sure as a military spouse that time for yourself, even in the midst of a successful career and kids, you still have to prioritize that to make sure that you are good and well running for every day and the chaos of life. So it's important. I'm glad to hear that you're doing that. Also, I know a lot of our military spouses, because of the life that we live in, the constant PCS seasons, are there any other jobs at First Command or within the finance world that we could recommend that would be good for them to look at?
Absolutely. I would definitely suggest checking out www.firstcommand.com. You can click on careers and you can browse any open careers that are there. Just to kind of name a few, what we'll call in the field or all over the country, even overseas, you're going to find jobs like administrative assistant, somebody that helps the financial advisor make sure all their paperwork is complete, all of that. You're going to have telephone specialists, somebody that's going to make those calls for you to schedule appointments with clients to make sure that they're coming in the office regularly. You're going to have financial advisors similar to myself. And then we also have assistant financial advisors that you might not be the main advisor, but you might be working for a financial advisor as you're trying to get your feet wet and get started. Really good one for spouses who PCS a lot. Sometimes they really like that assistant financial advisor role. I'll also say that we have a slew of home office roles. So our home office is based out of Fort Worth, Texas. And there is a ton of opportunities there to work at the home office. And then they also have a lot of remote virtual things through the home office, careers there that you can get into. Any type of support for us is needed at the home office. I will say there's been a little bit of pushback, just like federal employees going back to the office. First Command kind of has done that to say, hey, let's go back to the office. But they are willing to work with you. They're a super small company in comparison to larger companies, which is good. Kind of like the Coast Guard. It's mom and pop type of idea where once you get in the door, they will work with you. And so it's a pretty amazing company to be able to, they care about you and they will work with you to find something.
That's really nice to hear that they're able to understand the life that we live. Very cool. And very unique experiences and different facets of First Command where you're able to maybe just, if you have experience with assistants, executive assistants, maybe you're able to go into that field. And then last but not least, family and community. I know we talked a little bit at the beginning, but what has helped you and your family stay connected during deployments?
Yeah, for that, I would just say, FaceTime, emails. I actually kept some of the old emails from some of the first deployments, and every once in a while I'll go back and read those. So it's nice to kind of go back to the old letter system. But I would say that's kind of usually how we stay connected. It's just a couple of FaceTimes, emails back and forth.
Yeah, and there's something like getting snail mail, especially I know for kids, it's super exciting sometimes to open that physical piece of letter mail. So yeah, very unique. And then had there been any Coast Guard communities or stations that are your favorites?
Key West, obviously, that's the one where we met. So that'll always be our favorite and one we're trying to get back to. Here is, we're in Miami right now. So Miami has been probably, though I love the weather, just the commute is terrible. The jobs are so far away. The community is so spread out because there's no base housing. So this has been challenging. Merritt Island was one of the ones that are probably our top favorites as well. That was really fun. I really like small towns. So again, Key West, Merritt Island, things that are small town has been my favorites.
Very nice. And looking back, what do you wish you would have known as a brand new Coast Guard spouse?
I wish I knew I wasn't alone and not to be shy to ask for help. There are so many resources. The spousal community itself is probably one of the best resources. Other than that, I would also say know your active duty benefits and take advantage of them. I will definitely throw my husband under the bus for a minute and say I didn't know what TSP was. And I went home when I found out from First Command what TSP was, which is their 401k program, to say, hey, sweetie, I just heard about TSP. What do you have in it? And after 15 years of being in the military, he said, nothing. I'm like, what?
Oh, no.
You don't have any money in TSP? He's like, no, I've got a pension. Why do I need that? And obviously, we now have TSP, but I just didn't know about it. And as a spouse, so many spouses don't know about the benefits. So if you don't know the acronyms like TSP, SBP, SGLI, BAH, Google, research, ask the questions. The military has so many benefits and the spouses don't always come home and tell the spouses about things. So make sure that you know your spouse's benefits.
Very nice. Well, thank you for all of that information and knowledge. We're going to go to the comments right now to kind of highlight some of the questions that we had. So Maria said, what is the most rewarding moment of your job that you've had?
I feel like I get to change lives every single day. I get to coach people. I have seen spouses who their military members have passed away, and I've had to coach them through some of the hardest times of their lives. I've seen people have wedding funds for their kids to go have a wedding, or their college funds come to fruition, and then they get to send their kids to college. I get to really work one-on-one with people and honestly change their lives. And then their kids are legacy clients, and I get to make their kids' lives change forever too. We get them started with investments super young, and I can just change the trajectory of someone's life. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that sentiment. And, money is not everything, but it definitely, if you have that, emergency fund, you have such a peace of mind of knowing you're able to handle anything that comes your way. So, yes, super important. And Maria also had a really great question of, do you have a favorite app or website to track finances and help budget better?
For budgeting, I will say, obviously you can talk to the Command Financial Specialist, but they're usually the active duty member. And so sometimes it's really hard because your active duty spouse is going to know them. It's sometimes hard for the spouse to get involved. First Command can help you with budgeting. So of course, I would definitely say, look for your local office near you. Check out First Command. There are lots of budgeting apps out there. I can't even start. I love like the Every Dollar Budget app. That's a really good one. There's a bunch out there. But I would just say, make sure that you are keeping on track to your goals. A lot of times I'll say just pay yourself first. So make sure you put away to your goals and then spend the rest. And if there's nothing left to spend, you don't get to spend that month. So it's kind of like a reverse budgeting, but coming up with cash, it's really hard to part with dollars. If you're one that always overspends, use cash. That's a really good tool to kind of trick your brain to go, ooh, let me not overspend this month.
Yes, the physical beat is like we talked about the mail, like it's such a different experience. So yes, super important. And just want to mention, Kristen said, love how passionate you are about your career, and thank you for all the tips in regards to the Coast Guard and career. So just want to, as we close out, wanted to ask you, is there anything we can do to support you? And is there anything that's next for you?
I would say to support, just go to firstcommand.com, look up your local rep, talk to a local rep, make sure that you're getting help with finances, whether you think you're doing really good or you're in debt and might need some help. You can get that extra reassurance from having a professional kind of look over your finances. Next for me, honestly, is I love what I do, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be a financial advisor till I'm probably 80 years old. This is so much fun that I have no reason to ever leave. So not moving up in the company. I just love exactly what I'm doing and really like boots on the ground, helping people every day.
That's so great to hear that you found such joy in what you do. So, and as we're wrapping up, everybody, if you could please meet us in the careers group in the neighborhood community and post your questions. Monica or I will be able to help you answer any of those questions, and then I can give you direct support. And you can also engage with others and find your group or niche that you can communicate with people who know what you've been through and are experiencing the same thing. You can also join the Coast Guard group to see resources that are directly related to you and our branch, as well as participate in weekly discussions with other Coast Guard members about the ins and outs of being a Coastie. So make sure to check the Neighborhood Weekly for any exciting events and webinars and new opportunities. And just want to say thank you to everybody for the support. And thank you again, Monica, for being here. And I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Thanks, everybody. Bye.